Picture this, the smoky backrooms of early 20th century New York City, a time of grit, ambition, and survival. As waves of Italian immigrants arrived, they brought with them not just their hopes and dreams, but also ancient codes of honor and secrecy from the Sicilian Mafia. In this melting pot of struggle and opportunity, a new kind of power was brewing, giving rise to one of America's most infamous criminal dynasties, the Gambino crime family. Our story begins not with the Gambinos, but with the D'Aquila family, a brutal force that carved out its territory in Manhattan and Brooklyn. For decades, they navigated the violent world of organized crime through bloodshed and clandestine deals. By the 1930s, under the leadership of Vincent Mangano, they were cemented as one of New York's powerful five families, the undisputed rulers of the American underworld. But the name that would echo through history was yet to be claimed. This is where a quiet, unassuming mobster named Carlo Gambino enters the picture. He was a master strategist, a man who played the long game. In 1957, with a mix of cunning and quiet force, he orchestrated a seamless coup, seizing control of the family and, in a move of ultimate authority, giving it his own name. The Gambino era had begun. Under Carlo Gambino's reign, the family entered its golden age. He was a paradox, charming and intelligent, yet utterly ruthless. He expanded the family's empire into a vast network of extortion, racketeering, loan sharking, and control over powerful labor unions. Their influence was immense, stretching from the bustling Brooklyn docks all the way to the glitzy casinos of Las Vegas. They were everywhere, their tentacles wrapped around legitimate businesses, generating hundreds of millions of dollars. Carlo's true genius, however, was his mastery of invisibility. While his empire grew, he stayed in the shadows, avoiding the press and letting his subordinates take the fall when law enforcement got too close. For nearly 2 decades, he was an untouchable phantom, a king who ruled from the darkness, always one step ahead of the FBI. He maintained an iron grip on his organization, ensuring loyalty through a mix of fear and respect. But all empires eventually face a turning point. After Carlo Gambino's death from natural causes in 1976, the family entered a period of uncertainty and internal conflict. The crown passed to his cousin, Paul Castellano. Big Paul, as he was known, had a different vision for the future. He wanted to transform the Mafia into a more corporate entity, focusing on sophisticated white-collar crimes like stock fraud and construction schemes. He distanced himself from the gritty, violent street rackets that had been the family's bread and butter. This move was seen as a sign of weakness and arrogance by many of the family's old-school soldiers. They felt Castellano was out of touch, living in his lavish mansion on Staten Island, looking down on the very men who earned the money that funded his lifestyle. This growing discontent created a power vacuum, and into that void stepped a man who was the polar opposite of Castellano. His name was John Gotti. Ambitious, charismatic, and utterly fearless, Gotti was a product of the streets. He was flashy, wore expensive suits, and loved the attention. He represented a new generation of mobster, one who didn't believe in hiding in the shadows. He saw Castellano's leadership as a betrayal of the family's traditions, and he decided to do something about it. On a cold December evening in 1985, the simmering tensions exploded onto the streets of Manhattan. As Paul Castellano stepped out of his limousine in front of Sparks' Steakhouse, a team of gunmen ambushed him and his bodyguard, ending his reign in a hail of bullets. The hit was bold, public, and unmistakable. It was orchestrated by John Gotti. Within weeks, he was anointed the new boss of the Gambino family. The era of the Dapper Don had arrived. Gotti became a media sensation. He was a celebrity gangster, a folk hero to some. The cameras loved his swagger, his defiant smile, and his perfectly tailored Brioni suits. He reveled in the spotlight, holding court on the sidewalks of Little Italy and taunting the federal agents who trailed his every move. The public was captivated by this real-life godfather, but to law enforcement, he was public enemy number one. The government threw everything they had at him. Trial after trial, Gotti seemed invincible. He intimidated witnesses and charmed juries, walking free from charges that would have put away any other man. The press dubbed him the Teflon Don, because nothing seemed to stick. He was untouchable, a symbol of the mob's defiance against the system, but Gotti's love for the limelight would ultimately be his undoing. While he basked in his fame, the FBI was patiently planting bugs, recording his every boast and every order. The final nail in his coffin came from an unexpected source, his own underboss and trusted friend, Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano. Facing a long list of charges himself, Gravano decided to break the sacred oath of omertà and cooperate with the government. Sammy the Bull's testimony was devastating. He gave the FBI a first-hand account of Gotti's entire criminal enterprise, implicating him in multiple murders, including the hit on Paul Castellano. In 1992, the Teflon Don's luck finally ran out. Gotti was convicted on a slew of charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His reign was over, and with it, the golden age of the Gambino family came to a crashing halt. Gotti's downfall triggered a domino effect. The 1990s and 2000s were a period of chaos for the family. Waves of federal indictments, fueled by a new generation of mobsters willing to turn state's evidence, decimated their leadership. Internal power struggles and betrayals left the once mighty organization fragmented and weakened. Yet, even in decline, the Gambino family didn't just disappear. Like any resilient criminal network, they adapted. New leaders rose from the ashes, learning from the mistakes of the past. They abandoned the high-profile, flashy style of the Gotti era and returned to the shadows, shifting their operations into more discreet, low-profile ventures like cybercrime, pump-and-dump schemes, and a new wave of union corruption. Today, the Gambino name still resonates, a powerful echo from a bygone era. It's a reminder of a time when the Mafia held a firm grip on the American imagination. The epic saga of Carlo Gambino's cunning, Paul Castellano's corporate ambition, and John Gotti's brazen celebrity remains one of the most compelling and dramatic chapters in the history of organized crime. Ultimately, the story of the Gambino crime family is a timeless tale of ambition and consequence. It's about men who built vast empires from the shadows, driven by a relentless pursuit of power, wealth, and respect. But in the end, they were consumed by the very world they sought to control, undone by the violence, betrayal, and hubris that were the foundations of their rise. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most fascinating criminal organizations. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. We'll see you in the next one.